Hey everybody, Detective Fun Guy here. We're back with another paint tutorial today. For this, we have a Tau Breacher for the Tau Empire. And I'm going to show you how to paint with my own custom paint scheme. So, Tau is actually my 7th army I've got into. And you see me paint the Vespid Stinglings, the Kroot, some of the actual Tau. But I want to see what I can do for a Breacher. Now, if you notice these extra Tau weapons are off the side, is because when I got my Crisis suits, since Games Workshop split them up into 3 different units, I just magnetized them to go on the arms of the Crisis suits. The Crisis suits are already finished, so I won't do a tutorial for them yet. I might do one in the future. But without further ado, let's focus on this guy. So for the Tau color scheme, I have, of course, a purple scheme. So we're going to start off. So for this, we're going to use mainly the Army Painter Army Painter Fanatic paints. And I actually find that they're really well when doing pink, purple, orange, yellow, and a bunch of other different harder colors sometimes. So, for the purple armor, we're basically going to do something simple. For this, we're going to take a mix of Diabolic Plum and Impish Rouge. Now, of course, this may seem pink. Okay, I'm sorry, but this is pink. But Diabolic Plum may look purple, but it's actually a really dark magenta. And I like mixing the two so that way it's not too bright or too dark on the miniature. And we will be covering this up with the contrast paint eventually, but I just wanted to get the harder bit out right now. Squeeze some paint. We don't need too much. Never squeeze out too much paint for miniature, whether you're using your Citadel paint pots. Don't get too much dabs, and also for an Army Painter bottle, don't squirt too much out. And honestly, sometimes I do have mixed opinions about mixing colors, but for some, like custom stuff like my Tau, I actually found that the mixing actually helps to gain the... Okay, mix this till it's nice and even. Oh, I'm sorry. Grab a little bit of water, just 1 drop should do, or 2. The reason why I don't want it too thin is because we will be adding something to extend the drying time so that we can have a lot more time to work with the paint. Now, here we're going to use another. It's like a glaze medium. We're going to use War Paint's Retarder. Now, I understand it may sound like a bad word, but I assure you this is just a paint chemical. That's literally it. I'll take this Rouge for a second. So, what we're going to do is going to grab 1, 2 drops. And then we're going to mix it all together. We don't need much glaze medium. I just like to call it glaze medium because it's kind of slows the drying time. So it will have more time to work with this. And also it thins down the paint a little bit by itself, see? Okay, so, and I know some people go crazy when I use my table, but the truth is my table's already been dirty plenty of times, so I just figured, what the hell. So, what we're going to do is, it's going to be odd. We're going to go for all the armor, except for the backpack, some of the parts on his body, and the shoulder pad. I'll show you why in just a second. So, for right here, we're going to focus right here. So we're going to focus on the chest armor, right here. And don't worry, you could be a little messy. We are going to clean up at the end of this stage, though. And since we are slowing the dry time a little bit with the paint retarder, we are actually going to be able to work with this a little longer. And nice thin coats. We'll need around 2 or 3 for nice even coverage, but just really take your time, and it'll be worth the effort. Now for this, we're going to leave the legs right here for a different color later. Actually, yeah, so that way we can have a little color breakup. My scheme may seem kind of weird, but honestly, when I was at my local Warhammer store, tabletop store, and playing Warhammer, the fellas actually really love my Tau stuff. As a matter of fact, later in the video, I'll show maybe a short, I'll show off my other Tau units. Also, when you get to the helmet, these back parts will be black eventually. But what we're going to do is that we're going to base coat all over the helmet. Try not to hit the visors as much, or like a little eyes right here. But if you do, just clean it up with the black paint that we're going to add later. Just make sure you take your time and make sure you're in control. And don't overflow the miniature. Now with the armor mostly base coated, and mostly because the armor is going to be different colors, we're now going to move on to a contrast paint. We're going to go with Luxian Purple. So check out the paints like so. So the reason why I'm using the Luxian Purple is to kind of break up the armor a little bit. Well, some parts, mainly the arms and some parts of the legs. So I grabbed a small layer brush. So what we're going to do is take some of this contrast paint, put a little bit. We're not going to overfill it because we don't want to. All we're going to do is going to pick out some parts of the armor, like the ones on the arms, not the shoulder pads, but around the arms where it has armor. And don't worry, this may be a little messy, but just try to be careful. But even if you're not careful, that's fine. Just try to be steady, and we'll be able to clean it up easily later. And so basically what I mean for the legs is these little panels on his leg as well, just paint them with this color. Alright, the Luxian Purple now applied. We're now going to wash the other purple from the original mix earlier, as you can see. So what we're going to do is simple. So all we're going to do, we're going to take some shade, Druchii Violet. Now all we're going to do is that we're going to thin this down so that way we can get a wash. And the reason why I want to thin this down is so that way we don't over darken the miniature. And if you do over darken the miniature by accident, you can just repaint it up with the original mix from earlier. Druchii Violet. Now this is the new Druchii Violet, meaning that it will actually be a little bit more subtle, which is good. So what we're going to do is still add a pinch of water, a little bit, so that way we can just not over darken the miniature. Not where you applied the Luxian Purple, but just the original mix from earlier. Done. We're now going to start with another detail. I may notice I painted the black undersuit off camera. But I assure you, that was an accident. I was just trying to paint these up for Warhammer Night, and I managed to paint this one by accident, so I'm sorry about that. Without further ado, let's go on to the detail. I'm just going to paint the shoulder pad. So, I did more of a burgundy tone for my other ones right here, such as this one. And the reason why it's not finished as well is because this is one of the ones I'm working on in a different for just off the screen. Oh, and also I will show off how to paint the skin and other details. I'm just trying to replicate this little burgundy color right here. So, I am going to use contrast paints, so if this takes a little bit, I apologize, so let's just get into it. So, I do believe I used a mix of, let me make sure I find the right paint, yeah, of Leviathan Purple, and then Doomfire Magenta, so let's get it started. Now, this may not be the exact mix, but I'm looking for a close replica, because sometimes paint mixes are hard to remember. So, what we're going to do, take some Leviathan Purple, which we can do right here. So, I'm just getting a little dollops off camera so I don't spill it. There we go. We just wash off the brush real quick so I don't contaminate the colors. And, contaminate is just another term for not trying to, prevent color mixing by accident into a whole bottle. Because if you do, then that's really bad. Okay, so then we're going to move on to Doomfire Magenta. So it may look red, but it actually turns a little pinkish, but it is more like a fiery, red pink in a way. A little bit. I am going to use a little bit of water. Now, I know, so a lot of people don't use contrast paints with water, but I'm just doing it with this so that way it can run nice and smooth, because over time contrast paints can clump, which is unfortunate. But yeah, trying to be sure, trying to get the color right, needs more pink. So I'm just showing you right now, if you want to mix your colors, you kind of have to go with your gut or just go with where you're satisfied. So, what are we going to do now? Just wash off the brush again. Stuff like that, a little more magenta. Okay, there we go. And what I like to do is I like to thoroughly mix my mixes so that way you don't get a, not even texture. So as you can see, we got the perfect color. Let me just make sure it's the one I want. Okay. Yeah, that's actually perfect. Okay. I am going to add a little more water. Not to thin down the paint, but just so it runs a little more smooth. And I know a lot of people say it's going to be weird using a table. And one comment on one of my videos says people didn't like it. Well, guess what? I don't care. This is my channel. So what we're going to do, take this color and we're going to go all over the shoulder pad. As you can see, it has that nice little replica of burgundy that I was looking for. And of course, you can use Volupus Pink, which is another contrast paint. I was just using this mix because I don't have any Volupus Pink. I also wanted to sort of demonstrate sometimes you can adapt and learn to make your own colors sometimes. And just the shoulder pad. Alright, that's the shoulder pad painted. Alright, since I painted the black undersuit on the other miniature already, we're going to move on to this one. So, I'm going to show you how to put on the black details. Now, of course, it is a very standard, color, but we're also going to use a different technique a little bit. So, a lot of people sometimes will paint the undersuit and armor next from what I know of. So, what we're going to do is that I'm going to start painting the black now after I finish the armor, and then I'm going to use a smaller brush so that way I can go around the armor so that I wouldn't have to clean up later. And also the leg armor hasn't really been painted on this one yet, like the ones on the upper tops, but I'll paint that one later off screen. I just wanted to swap miniatures because it was a boo-boo that I made. I'll show you how to paint the gun already later. So, we're going to take another contrast paint. I forgot to show it. I'm sorry. Black Legion. So, what we're going to do, take the small layer brush from Citadel, take some Black Legion, and put it right here. Now, we do want a little bit of a dollop puddle, but not much, because we don't need too much paint. So, what we're going to do is follow around the armor. So what we're going to do is go in between here, just follow the armor, and there's some parts of the black suit right here that goes above the armor. So just make sure to paint those. And what we're going to do is just go around every little detail. That's armor. And if you get any black on it, don't worry. You can just tidy it up and clean it up later. Alright, on to the next step. We're going to paint some parts with Leviathan Purple, which we used earlier. For this, we're basically going to use it on the gun and the backpack. Oh, I'm sorry, Pulse Blaster. So, what we're going to do, take some more of the Leviathan Purple, and what we're going to do, take a little bit, and then we're going to thin some down a little bit with water. Not much. Like I said, some contrast paints can clump up over time, but if they're still usable, don't worry, just use a little bit of water and it'll be just fine. And also shake it up, of course, which I did off camera. Make sure there's enough, but not too much. Alright, perfect. So, what we're going to do is quite simple. Now, what we're going to do is going to apply this all over the gun, and try not to hit the black, although this is a dark purple. Just try to be a little careful is all. We're going all over the pulse blaster, and of course the backpack as I said, but let me get the blaster done real quick. We'll do the gold in a minute, and we'll probably do the gold at the last step, so that way I can focus on the other little details. Or maybe the skin. Who knows? Alright, and with Leviathan Purple, as I said, we're also going to go on the backpack. I'll show you right now. So, I'm going to tie it up, and then go all over the backpack. Just try not to hit the armor. Just be very careful. Alright, with Leviathan Purple now dry, we are going to focus on the lenses after. But first, right now, before we go on to that, let me just make sure I grab the other ones so I can make sure. Yes, so, just stages. I switched them out earlier. So, right now, we're going to focus on the gold. So, of course, we're going to use one of my favorite gold colors by Citadel, Retributor Armor. So, we're going to start off. Also, the reason why I started using Army Painter Fanatic paints for this paint scheme, for my purple towel, is because I found that the Army Painter Fanatics actually have really good coverage and smooth layers if you do them quite carefully with purple, pink, white, orange, and yellow, because those are actually kind of hard to paint sometimes. Take some Retributor Armor. We are going to thin it a little bit with some water. Not too much, or else we'll lose the metallic effect. So right here is my thin, just a little bit, not much. So what we're going to do, just focus on the gold on the miniature. So it might be a little difficult, but try your best not to hit anything. Don't worry if you do, you can just clean it up afterwards. I'm just going to go on the gold, the circle on the... You can do the center of his chest if you can reach it, but I just like to leave it with the purple on it. And then the circle on the Pulse Blaster. Just be very careful. Alright, with the gold now applied, we are now going to focus on something different. So, again with the gold, I'm now going to show you one of the cool things I like about these miniatures, the skin. So over here we have an optional head, build option, where we have the head, and of course all of them have the feet exposed, but mostly the head. So, my technique made a little bit different when it comes to Tau skin, but we'll see how it goes. Now, traditionally, from what I've seen, people would layer up by using a base paint, the Fang, and then layer it up, with Rust Gray, then Fenrisian Gray, and then highlight. And then some people just add Rust Gray, white, and that's it. Or Space Wolves Gray, then Drakenhof Nightshade. But for this, we're going to use Drakenhof Nightshade as the base coat. And, of course, that might sound weird using a wash as the base coat. But the reason why it's being is because this is the old style Drakenhof Nightshade. And just like the new one, it's not really a pure blue. It's more of a bluish gray. And when it goes over white, you'll see the desired effect that we'll get. So, what we're going to do, take some Drakenhof Nightshade on the small brush, and I did make sure to wash this out. Okay, there we go, because we had gold on it. So, what we're going to do, take some Drakenhof Nightshade. So, what we're going to do, we're going to first add it to the feet first. And you can get the hooves at this point, don't worry, you can just go back and clean up later. So, as you can sort of see, it has a nice bluish gray tint, which is what we want on the white for a base color. Also, when you go into the head, just be a little careful to make sure there's not any pooling. So, sort of like make sure there's not too much paint on your brush. And then when we go to the face, what we're going to do, or the head, we're going to go all over it with Drakenhof Nightshade. Make sure there's no pooling. If you see anywhere it starts to pool, just poke it a little bit and just spread it out evenly all over the miniature. Make sure it does set on the recesses, but just make sure it doesn't pool like I just said. Be a little careful. And when you get around the eyes, try to soak it up from the eyes. And, just try to delegate this shade. And don't worry about the hair, we'll repaint that later. The shade of Drakenhof Nightshade done, or dried. You can see how it's dried nicely over the skin. But as you can see, it's a little splotchy. And also, if you see some shade that doesn't go like over the foot, like right here, don't worry, we can tidy that up. What we're going to do is that, the reason why I did this stage first, because it gives that nice tint, and it'll make a nice little base layer. Also, it's also darkened down the recesses a little bit so we know where to highlight. So, we're going to do 3 highlights here. Now, I know 3 might be a little excessive for this, but it's just some sharper details than the third one. So, for the first highlight, we're going to take a layer paint, Rust Gray. So, Rust Gray is essentially a blue gray, and essentially, although Rust Gray is mainly used for, like I said, blue gray or Space Wolf armor, it is really good for Tau skin because it is roughly the same color. Take some paint. Now, I'm sorry, some of my paints may be a little like in terms of like consistency, but let me tell you something. I just wanted to use what I have, and don't worry, just a little bit of water will fix. Just make sure you mix it a little bit. I will make sure to get new paint that it's aesthetically pleasing. So what we're going to do with the rust gray, use our small layer brush from Citadel. So what we're going to do is simple. So you look on the body, on the face and the hooves, and just avoid the recesses. So for right here, the front part, the top part of the mouth right here, we layer that. We also layer parts of the brow. And if you get a little bit too much, just take your finger and just swipe it away quickly. And then just all over the flat areas of the head. And just, yeah, and on the cheeks right here, be sure to avoid the little recesses. Alright, but the highlights, for the first highlights now done, you can see the face is looking very nice. But now, we're going to do an even more better highlight to increase the contrast on it. So, what we're going to do, we're taking a lighter paint. For this, we're going to use Fenrisian Gray. So, what we're going to do, take some Fenrisian Gray. So, we are going to thin this down a little bit, but not much. What we're going to do, is essentially, is that take some Fenrisian Gray, and then take some right here, and put on the palette, like so. Now, we are going to add some water. Now, it's not for, well, it is for thinning it down a little bit, but it's also to make sure that it sort of blends. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So what we're going to do is simple. So as you can see right here on the parts of the face, what we're going to do is that we're just going to highlight the top of the mouth with Fenrisian Gray, the bottom of the chin, and what we're going to do is that we're going to go around the brow, like usual, and then we're just going to stop about right here, so that way it can blend in later. I'll show you later. And just go all over the head. And what I mean by all over the head is that leave these cheekbones right here down. Paint tip of the chin. Spread it out a little bit. Make sure it's not too like vibrant. At the face. The brow. Stop right there. Do not go past the cheek right there. And then all over the rest of the top of the head. Alright, with the Fenrisian Gray applied, as you can see when I stop right here on the cheek, it's a little darker color, so we have a nice little blend. So now we're going to add an even sharper highlight just to make it a little more decent. So for this, I'm going to take some Army Painter's Matte White. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix the Fenrisian Gray with some white. Now you don't want too much white, you just want a smidge. Now what I mean by smidge is that just a little bit, so that way it doesn't over lighten the color, because white is kind of powerful in terms of pigment. I'm going to take a bigger brush just to mix it, so that way I don't clog my small layer brush. And as you can see, that's a little too white. So what I'm going to do is jump back to Fenrisian Gray, and then we're going to add a little more, just so we can kind of get that color that we're after. So, 1 and 2 little brushfuls, so that way we can have a nice balance. And make sure to, and like I said earlier, make sure to thoroughly blend your mixes. Alright, perfect. So, let me wash off the brush. Dry it off. Okay, onto the small layer brush. So, what we're going to do is that take this paint mixture, and what we're going to do, you don't want much, just teeny tiny. And what we're going to do is that just around the brow and the little gap that's on their forehead. So around the forehead, the ridge right there, just paint a little bit with this color. We're going to do around the brow. And if you want, you can also do the tip of the chin. Alright, there we go. That's actually the skin and hooves done. Also, my apologies, I did make a mistake. The hooves aren't done, it's just that we need to paint the nails on them. And the hair on the head. So, what we're going to do with the hooves is that we're going to use, you can use like any darker brown that you want. I'm just making sure I find the right one real quick. Where is it? Here it is. We're going to use Thondia Brown. So what we're going to do Shake up the paint like so. Let's see. So, take some Pondia Brown, and what we're going to do is do a little bit on the palette like so. We will need to thin it down a little bit. Okay, so what we're going to do is paint this on the hooves, and also just be very careful not to hit the skin. So what I'm going to do here is that just follow where that recess goes early from the shade, and just paint the hoof, and that's it. And just try not to hit the skin. If you do, you can just clean up, but just be careful at this stage. Now we're going to move on to another detail, and before I do want to shade the gold because I did forget about that. And also I tidied up his hair off camera with white. So first off, we're going to shade the gold. Now, I ran out of Flesh Wash, so I am actually going to use something also popular. We're going to shade the gold with Agrax Earthshade. So check out the pot like so. Take some Agrax Earthshade, put on the palette, or table, I don't know. And then we're just going to shade all over the gold. Just be careful. Now, it will give the gold a little more brown, but I do like this because Tau gold to me isn't really like the standard gold. It's kind of like a dirtier gold, kind of. Don't forget about the gold on the shoulder pad. And now for an optional detail, which I did forget again, what we're going to do is paint the eyes of the miniature. Or for this, we're going to use Evil Sunz Scarlet. Now, when I was looking at Tau eye color, essentially it's a little bit different because some can be purple, some can be sort of blue, some can be kind of yellow. But I just prefer the red, from what I heard of red, because red to me is nicely contrasted against the blue skin. So we're going to take not much, just a very, very little smidge. What we're going to do, just kind of dot the eye a little bit. Let me try to get it up close for the camera. Okay, and then what we're going to do is simple. We're just going to go pink and then be done. Steady, steady. And don't worry, I'll just clean that up later and I'll off camera. So what we're going to do is pink, pink, and then we'll clean that up later. After the cleanup work, I managed to fix the eyes from the original Final Highlight mix. And now we're going to paint on the hair. So for the hair, we're just going to use a simple contrast paint. You can paint the hair any color you want, but I'm going to go with Agrados Dunes. So take some Agrados Dunes. We are going to shake it up. The Agrados Dunes will just make it some sort of a blondish color. So what we're going to do, take some Agrados Dunes, put on the palette, and what we're going to do. So we don't need much. We just don't want to overfill and go onto the skin. So we're going to do this. Then just go down the hair that they have braided. You can of course do different colors. I just want to do it this color just because I like it. And I will make sure to soak up the excess so that way it doesn't overpower. Okay, that's the hair done. Okay, now we're going to move back onto the breacher with the helmet. Now, this is the original one. The original one I used to paint the black leather was just for an example. So, and I painted his hooves and skin the same way because they both have the feet. So, what we're going to do is I'm not going to paint the lenses on his helmet or in his faceplate. So, what we're going to do is that we're actually going to do something simple. First, we're going to use a little bit of the Army Painter Matte White again. Just sort of sketch it in a little bit. Just a smidge, not much. There we go. And you do want to thin this down a little bit, so stuff like that. Make sure it doesn't go pink, because I almost forgot the red was right by it, so that's my fault. So what we're going to do, so for this big circle, I'm just going to paint the rim of it, so that way I don't have to worry about overloading the lenses with color. And there's two little lenses right here. Just take your time and just make sure you hit all those areas. After the white dries, we are now going to apply a little bit of a contrast paint, Striking Scorpions Green. Now, you can use any green, but I just wanted to use Striking Scorpions Green because it has a nice, bright, vibrant green. So, what we're going to do, we don't need much. Just take a smidge of Striking Scorpions Green, put it on the palette, and what we're going to do is simple. what we're going to do, with the little bit that we have in our brush, I'm going to try to pull it up to the camera. What we're going to do is we're going to just gently layer over the white, so that way we'll get that green lighting and such. Alright, that's the green done. Alright, with all those things done, that completes our breacher tutorial. So this breacher, I of course painted with the helmet on. So of course I used the same details. Let me just make sure. So what we're going to do, so what I did is, I did my own custom paint scheme with a shoulder pad, and did the lenses at the very end, focused the camera, and stuff like that, painted the gold, and stuff like that. And then of course we painted the one with the helmet off. If you want to do all helmets, that's fine. But for the ones without a helmet, it's really cool just to get this for practice for skin and stuff like that. So both a little bit of different techniques, but both really cool miniatures. All right, with that done, that concludes our tile painting tutorial. Like I said earlier, I really hope you enjoyed watching. I really hope you have fun painting your tile. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Happy painting. Bye bye.